My partner gaslit me into thinking I was crazy. The truth nearly broke me. Sometimes the people we love most can make us question our own reality. And then the doubt begins. Gaslighting doesn't happen through a thunderclap. It drips, soft and steady, so your reality is soaked before you're even aware of it. Looking back now, I know the signs emblazoned in neon, but at the time, I thought I was just getting forgetful, clumsy, or even sick. There was something compelling in the quiet way that doesn't yell from rooftops, but owns a room no matter what. When I first encountered Adam, he was at ease, he laughed frequently, and he had a look at you so you felt you were the only human being in the room. It was after a frantic breakup of us that had gotten me questioning everything about myself, and he was the answer. He noticed things no one else does. The exact way I incorporated sugar into my coffee, the songs I hummed under my tongue when no one was looking. By the third date, he presented me with my favorite pastry, and I felt, this is someone who observes me. Adam was flawless for the first 6 months. It was he who urged me to end a bad job, he who got me into a new apartment, he who reminded me each and every day of his privileged position of having me. I was wrapped up in a bubble of security, but safety proved to be bait. His first delay was almost comical. I had texted him about having dinner at my parents', even used a smiley face because I was so excited for them to meet him. He didn't show up the evening of, though. After calling, his voice tight with worry, he clarified softly. You never said, sweetheart. You're confusing it again with your schedule at work, right? I went back through the chat to catch him in the moment, though the message was no longer there. My screen was blank, as if I dreamed it. I sat there, frozen, phone gripped, wondering if I'd dreamed it. Adam came an hour later with flowers. He kissed my forehead and stated, I know you've been stressed. Let's just have a quiet night in tonight. I laughed unsteadily, appreciative of his patience. It never occurred to me that I had, for the first time, questioned my own memory. Then it was small things. The remote control which I was sure of having left on the couch, but found in the fridge. Keys I remembered putting by the door, but which ended up in my shoe. One conversation I felt we'd had about grocery shopping, which Adam was adamant never happened. Each time, he would graciously smile and say something such as, You've been so distracted of late, or you simply must write these things down. He presented it as if he was worried. Then I actually did start taking things down in writing. Phone notes, post-its on the fridge door. But if I tried to bring up evidence, he'd chuckle and shake his head. You're actually saving evidence? That's not healthy. Don't you trust me? The guilt was more than the confusion. Of course, I trusted him. Didn't I? It wasn't just objects or conversations. He began chipping at my emotions too. If I became angry, you're overreacting again. Anyone else would laugh this off. If I had said, you're so sensitive. You always interpret things the wrong way. If I was overjoyed over something irrelevant to him, you get so excited over nothing. Don't be childish. I started apologizing over and over again. For my moods. For my reactions. Even for my own space-occupying presence. It was as though my emotions had been rerouted so that they belonged to him. My nightmare, which most disturbed me, was the evening of my culinary training. I recounted to Adam a dream so vivid. A thunderstorm raging through the city, trees uprooted, panes shattering. He nodded calmly and said, You recounted it yesterday. Exact details. You have been replaying yourself so frequently. I froze. No, this was last night. I just woke up from it this morning. But he just kissed my temple and went back to chopping the onions, and I stood there grasping the counter like the world had swayed. Was I rambling? Was my memory losing its stitches? Or was reality slipping between my fingers? It was slow and measured. Adam would begin connecting things my friends had presumably said. Sarah's worried about you. He would state loosely over a cup of coffee. She believes you've been acting kind of strange. When I asked her point blank, she was shocked. What? Never. All I said was you look tired, that's it. But Adam had a manner of speaking so calmly, so assuredly, that what Sarah was saying seemed thin next to it. I found myself questioning not only myself, but the others I trusted. My group grew smaller and smaller over time, and the only, later, most vocal, voice you'd hear was Adam's. Cruelest of all. He was saving me, I thought. Part 2. The fractures in the mirror. The more I concentrated on grasping at reality, the farther away it became. Adam's special ability was taking rock-solid ground and turning it into sand. During a party at work, one evening, I had narrated an hilarious incident from my time at college, one in which my roommate and I, while trying to pop popcorn without a cover, had set off the fire alarm, when Adam stood up from his seat at the table and touched me gently on the arm. "Babe, that's my story," he clarified, his tone filled with mirth. "You're getting it confused again." I stared at him, astonished. "No, it was mine. My freshman year." He gazed at me pitifully, the kind of glance that shrunk me smaller than a child. "You're cute. You probably absorbed it because you've heard me say it so many times." His assistants chuckled, thinking it was a sweet in-house joke. I smiled, even though my chest was aflame. On the drive home, he was silent for some time before he finally opened his mouth and said, "You embarrassed yourself tonight. Everybody noticed you were confused. Maybe lay off the wine next time." "I only had one glass," I whispered. He gazed out the window. "Exactly." I felt myself shrink 3 sizes in that car. It was no longer merely my memories. Adam was shaping my emotions. If there was something bothering me, he'd sigh. "Are you sure you're not overreacting? You have been so sensitive these days." If I was depressed, "You're so self-centered. You always think everything's about you." If I got excited without him, proud of finishing a work assignment, chuckling at a comedic moment among friends, he'd lift an eyebrow. "You get completely overexcited over small things." Gradually, I ceased trusting my emotions. Everything was questioned and doubted. Adam calibrated the compass of my heart, always pointing toward doubt. Harsh blows came in the quiet of the night. One time, I woke up at 2 a.m. to the front door shutting. Adam was not in bed, my heart racing. I paced until he got back 20 minutes later, smelling slightly of smoke. "Where were you?" I asked. He stared at me blankly. "I never went anywhere. You were probably dreaming again." "But I heard." "You always do this," he cut in, tone smooth but cutting like glass. "You think of things and then pretend they're real. It's wearing thin." I stood, shaking, the door slams echo lingering in my ears. My memory was a piece of glass, brittle, cracking. Desperate to ground myself, journaling became my thing. Every morning, I jot down everything from the previous day: what we ate, what we watched, what time he went off to work. It was my secret lifeline. But Adam discovered it. I went into the sitting room to find him reading through the pages, eyes upraised. "This is," he inhaled deeply and shook his head. "You know you're coming across paranoid, right? Keeping a record of my activities? What? You're predicting a lawsuit." "It's not about you," I stammered. "It's for me, so I don't forget things." "Exactly," he whispered, his voice filled with pretended concern. "You don't trust yourself anymore. You're making up evidence. That's not good, love. You might want to talk to a shrink." And because he was so convincing, I believed him. I did seek therapy. At first, it was a sanctuary. I invested my fears, my confusion, my desperate need for perspective. My therapist assured me it was good to keep a journal, good to keep facts and emotions separate. I left those sessions a little freer. But Adam noticed. After the second visit, he insisted on bringing me for support. During the back journey, he asked, "So, what did you guys talk about?" When I paused, he grinned. "You don't have to keep it a secret from me. I'm on your team." Next time, I rewrote my story. I left out parts addressing him. I blamed work stress, childhood insecurity, lethargy. I was split into 2 versions of myself. The one in the therapist's room, the other back home with Adam. Splitting was exhausting. Friends began noticing too. "You've been different recently," Sarah remarked after getting a cup of coffee one afternoon. She looked at me as if I was a puzzle incomplete. "You're not. You. Something shut off your shine." I laughed too noisily. "I've just been busy." But her words hurt me, darkened me. That was exactly what I was. I had to talk to her, but Adam's words lingered in my head. "Sarah thinks you're unstable. She's told you so herself." So, I diverted the subject. The cracks deepened on my birthday. Adam had arranged for dinner at a swanky restaurant, roped in a few friends, ordered champagne. It was meant to be perfect. But at some time, he leaned over and was whispering something in my closest friend, Claire's, ear, and it was keeping her in giggles. My stomach knotted up. Then, in the car, I asked, "What did you say to Claire?" "Nothing important," he replied smoothly. "You were laughing. Was it about me?" He let out a deep, melodramatic sigh. "You have to stop fantasizing. You're paranoid. Should you ruin your own birthday?" Words hurt more than a knife. I sat there in speechless shock, staring out at the city lights, wondering if I was paranoid, or if, for the first time, I was getting the truth at last. That night, after Adam went to bed, I got my journal and reread the pages. It was normal, rock-solid stuff, like bricks holding up a wall against the storm. And at last, I didn't consider myself a lunatic churning out gibberish. I was a prisoner creating a map of the exit, and I knew something needed to change. Part 3, Breaking the Spell. The day finally caught up with me was so ordinary, it was practically anticlimactic. It was a Tuesday afternoon, rain streaming the panes. I was scrolling through aimlessly when I stumbled upon a photo Sarah had uploaded online, a group shot of last month's barbecue party. Everyone was there, grinning, drinks aloft. And there, off at the edge of the frame, was Adam, arm around Claire's shoulder, beard dangling in his other hand. I stopped breathing. It was the same barbecue Adam had insisted he'd never attended. He stated I'd mixed up weekends, accused me of confusing memories again. I tearfully apologized that night, embarrassed at being forgetful, at putting him in an uncomfortable position. But the photo didn't lie. My hands trembled while I zoomed in. Adam's smile grinned back at me, unmistakable, impossible to erase. My world was at last rock solid for the first time in months. I wasn't crazy. I never was. It was a rush of oxygen. All of those nights, all of those arguments, all of those perpetual apologies. Now, I was viewing them for what they were, not validation of my weakness, but evidence of his heartlessness. After Adam arrived home later, he was given a test by me. Remember Sarah's barbecue? I asked casually as he set down his briefcase. He glanced up. Of course. What? My heart was racing. You mentioned you weren't there last month. He stopped only for a second before he weakly grinned. Did I? You probably misunderstood. I pulled out my phone and showed him the image. Explain this. His face fluctuated, then evened out in a chuckle. Wow, you do keep things, don't you? Must have forgotten. No harm done. It was a big deal. It was the entire thing. His charisma did not wrap around me for the first time. His voice did not soothe me. I looked at him for what he was, a control-obsessed man, who warped reality so it distorted toward him like rot. And I knew then, if I stayed, I would lose myself completely. Days afterwards were a haze of secret plotting. I was stashing essentials in a carry-all under the bed: passport, cash, extra charger, small notebook. I didn't tell Adam. I didn't tell anybody. My fear was if he got so much as a scent of my plan, he would turn it, make me doubt myself again. I went up cautiously to Sarah. One afternoon, we were in her car, and I inquired, "Did you ever tell Adam you thought I was unstable?" She blinked in perplexity, then scowled. What? No. I said you're strong. That you always bounce back from things. Why would I say that? Her words broke through the final portion of his delusion. He had lied, again and again, not only about me, but about everyone around me. That night, I lay in bed and listened to Adam's rhythmic breathing, rehearsing my escape plan over and over again. I told myself, don't give him a chance to talk you out of it. Just go. The opportunity came a week later. Adam was on the couch, watching a basketball game. I was in the kitchen, and my heart was racing. I called out, "I'm running to the store. Do you need anything?" "Beer," he whispered distractedly, staring at the screen. I fastened my shoes, grasped the tote bag, and walked out of the room. My legs were lead-heavy, my throat was parched. With every step through the hallway, I waited for him to yell, to catch me. He didn't. Sarah was waiting for me in her car one block over. When I got into the passenger seat, the relief was so great that I cried and cried. She gripped my hand and got us moving. I felt safe for the first time in months. And leaving didn't mean automatic freedom. It was torture those first weeks at Sarah's apartment. I would jump at noises, afraid Adam would come and find me. My phone beeped with texts. "Where are you? You're acting foolishly. No one else will know you like me." I blocked his number, but the fear lingered. At night, lying in bed, I'd hear echoes of his voice. "You're paranoid. You're overreacting. You're too much." Occasionally, I nearly believed them. Therapy was my rock. My therapist gave me a word for what had happened: gaslighting, emotional abuse, systematic wearing down of self-trust. It was given a name after being told. It was like holding up a mirror in front of me. For so long, I felt I was coming apart. My mind was betraying me. But I was manipulated, not cracked. There's a difference. And slowly, little by little, I began rebuilding myself. Months passed. Adam tried again. Email, fake social media accounts, even a voicemail dripping with fabricated sweetness. You'll never know anyone who knows you the way I do. But I didn't answer. Instead, I halted him at every turn, cut the strings he was forever throwing my way. With every boundary I drew, I was discovering myself back. It's been over a year now. I live alone in a small sunlit apartment whose mornings scent of air and coffee. There are plants on the windowsill, not to persuade myself that they're alive, but so I can observe things bloom. My journal is still on my nightstand, but these pages come differently now. Not menus and conversations. Not evidence to turn against manipulation. Now hopes, dreams, things I'm grateful for. Some days the doubts creep back in. Some memory of Adam's voice labeling me crazy will resurface, biting and sneering. But then I glance around, the light pouring across the floor, the laughing friends reminding me of who I am, the calming words of my therapist, and I know the truth. I was never crazy. I was never broken. I was gaslit, and I survived. Survival, I've learned, is not the end of the road. It's the beginning of freedom.